Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone, welcome into the Computer America Show. We have a great program planned for you where in the second part of the show, we will be doing computer and technology news. That's where we keep up to date, try to catch all the stories that are tech-related, tech-oriented that you need to know about. And hey, it's always a lot of fun, so be sure to stick around for that. But as always, in the first part of our program, we have our favorite segment, which is where we interview great companies, great guests with very interesting products that we feel you should know about. And today is no exception, where we will be interviewing a company called Crownstone. And if you want to find out who they are and what they are, stick around here, but we'll also have things in the show notes. So I think a good place to start is, of course, the website, computeramerica.com. That's going to be the number one place to go if you would like to hear, computeramerica.com is the place to go if you want to see the show notes, a link to our guest website, any articles, videos, product reviews, anything like that you want to find will be at computeramerica.com. Check that out. Also, be sure to check out the live video stream, which you can also find at twitch.tv/computeramerica. And last but not least, wherever podcasts are heard, hey, Computer America, it's today's show rebroadcast like that. So all that being said, why don't we go ahead, get our guests in here and get started. So obviously, like I said, company called Crownstone. If you want to find out more, you can head on over to crownstone.rocks or, hey, again, link in our show notes. But here to explain to us what they do, how they do it, is none other than the CEO himself, Mr. I'm sorry for this, Mr. Anna von Rossum. So hopefully I said that right. I know I practiced a little bit before, but hey, I mess up. Anna, thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. So obviously this is, I think a lot of people have heard to some extent by now, home automation is not, it's not a foreign concept. It's something that a lot of people may be looking into, but of course the initial cost and the initial setup and things like that, there has, in the past, there's been some things that make it very prohibitive for, just anyone who's, kind of wants to have an introduction into it to, kind of leap into it. But I think your product really does a good job in, kind of introducing this. So before we get into exactly what Crownstone is, why don't we talk a bit about yourself and your background? Because I don't think there's many people that have been into home automation for more than 10 years. A lot of people have other backgrounds coming into this. What's your background? Where'd you come from, and why did you decide to start working with Crownstone?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, it's a good question. Like, not everybody is starting with smart homes, of course. What I have been working a lot on is artificial intelligence in general. We've done several projects on autonomous robots mainly, and European and national projects. National, in this case, means the Netherlands. And those autonomous robots, they need to be really smart. And smart in the sense that they need to be able to localize themselves. If you have your laptop or something like that and you put it on the street, it will be run over by a random car. To have an autonomous system, you need sensors and actuators on that. However, autonomous robots are still, like a decade ago at least. You have those small Roombas, you have those little vacuum clean robots. You have, of course, a lot of work done on autonomous cars, but really AI in a autonomous fashion, it's currently basically only really happening in smart homes. And also in smart homes, what is then important is again the same things. Like if you want to have that home really smart, you have to add actuators and you have to add sensors. And conventionally, a lot of smart homes did have like some switches or did have some kind of technology to control the blinds, but they have a real lack on know-how on what is happening actually in that home. So it's basically like building an AI for that home if you want to make a smart home that doesn't have eyes, that doesn't have ears. So it's really hard to make a home really smart if you don't add those features. And why it personally motivates me is from a professional perspective. I think if you add those sensors and if you add those actuators, the type of intelligence that you create is rather different from a, say, Google search engine. Like if you have a rat running around, it's very smart in a particular sense. It is able to get food, it's able to procreate, etc. These are all kind of aspects that stem from an embodied perspective. And that's what personally interests me. The kind of AI that you will be able to develop from these applications is going to be like breathtaking.
Right, yeah, and of course a lot to break down there, but you are absolutely right because I think when maybe the marketing team got a hold of artificial intelligence or AI or these smart devices, they really didn't let you do much more than pull out your smartphone and turn things off from a distance, and really you're just putting your lights on a schedule or something like that. You seem to really be trying to push for something I guess the next step beyond. And this is, of course, why you're going to hear. But you mentioned things like AI and being able to give a room kind of a sense of presence where maybe if you're in there, it'll open the blinds or something like that. I mean, why is that the important part for, I guess, smart homes? Like, why is it that the smart home should, I guess, kind of cater to the person living in it as opposed to this system of schedules and turning things off from a distance? Why do you think AI is important when it comes to smart homes?
Yeah, so if you have it about, if you want to have a smarter home, if you want to have a secure home or a safe home, and for example, security means being able to respond to someone being in your home while you're not there, then it's important to know stuff. The home has to sense things. If you want to have heating or cooling, or if you want to have lights being there where you are, which is basically how our homes should be operating, then it should know where people are. For example, you have thermostats currently that can react to someone leaving the house, and it can control everything and turn everything off. But this is kind of a very first version of this system where the home only knows if you're home or not, but doesn't have much more of sensors available. If you have more of these, if you have a finer granularity, which you can call micro geofencing, a little bit like GPS, but then indoors, you can actually do this on a much more fine-grained level. So you can really have music music turned on in the living room if you're there, and then if you go to the kitchen, you don't need to like control it in such a way that you have music in the kitchen. It's gonna go automatically with you. Very small examples like have that all are like kind of convenience based. For example, if you have your alarm set on your smartphone and you're on the moment you're already, like, for example, waking up very early and you're in public transport, suddenly your alarm can go off. That's inconvenient because like you're in the train or you're somewhere else, and it would be nice if your phone actually knows, okay, I'm now in the bedroom and I have indeed this alarm function and it should now work, and if you're not there, it shouldn't be working. So you have some kind of context sensitive information for your alarm. you can also think, for example, about your banking application. Why should you? It's convenient, or like you can call it second authentication, kind of second layer of authentication.
Mm-hmm.
If you only are able to wire very large amounts of money, if you're in the living room, and if you're in another room, you want to have something else happen. For example, you want to have it cut off at $1,000 or something like that. So you can have all kind of additional services that we have not thought of yet, that all have to do with this kind of information of where you are in the house. Other examples, for example, messaging. Messaging is now really not taking into account where you are.
Right.
If you are in the kitchen or if you are in the living room, you might, for example, want to send a message like, "I made something for you, honey. It's in the fridge," and you want to convey this message when someone enters the kitchen. These are all kind of little small convenience things, but all together they add up to a really nice overall
No,
level of comfort we don't are accustomed to yet.
Yeah, you laid out a couple examples there, and I know that we've spoken to like, let's say, security firms here on the show, and I actually do find that a very like, that's something that no one has really brought up, where banks and other large retailers, they're working on systems that will detect, if you are on the correct device, if you're connecting from the proper location and places like that, and make sure that, obviously, let's say you live in the US and someone accesses your bank account from Russia, they're going to flag that. They're going to make sure nothing goes through. But I like your example even better, where let's say you sit down in your home office and you pay your bills, in your home office. If you're connecting from your home office, that's one thing. If you're connecting from, let's say, even outside your own home or outside your bedroom, then that's a different flag to kind of send up and say that's unusual. That's something that I've never heard of. But of course, doing that kind of fine-grained stuff, and I'm assuming this is what Crownstone is kind of specializing in, just making sure that your position is, I guess, kind of that fine-grained, because so far, when it comes to a lot of different technologies, and I'm sure that, and we're going to get into exactly what Crownstone is and does, but, Bluetooth has like a 30-foot radius, and it doesn't really do a good job of, like, let's say, positioning. I think if you set up multiple Wi-Fi points, you can kind of triangulate a position. But talk about how we kind of get this map of where a person is, and we can go ahead and branch that into Crownstone and the product that you are offering.
Yeah, that's and those are good points. We started really from a very from very complicated algorithms from the autonomous robots part. So you have simultaneous localization and mapping, and really really high, very complex algorithms, basically. But over the course of experimentation, we found out that we didn't need it. Like, you don't need to know, okay, I'm 20 centimeters from that wall or 30 centimeters from that. It's not like real GPS, but then on a centimeter level, or like a inch level.
Yeah.
that you have to know it. You really want to know if someone is in particular room A versus B. And this is one part where you can use a kind of AI, or kind of AI in that system, or a self-learning part at least. One of the first things you do in our system is giving a name to the AI in your home. Say it's Ben, and you say, Ben, okay, this is the living room, this is the kitchen, and that is the bedroom. And then the system asks, "Oh, do you want to do something for me?" And that is to walk around in this in the living room or in the kitchen. And while you do it, it trains itself. It collects fingerprints, in this case from indeed Bluetooth beacons, or anything that speaks Bluetooth, basically. And it collects those, and then it runs a classifier on top of it that says, okay, that this collection of signals together, that means that we have to be in that room. And so you train the system yourself. And basically the accuracy of that is pretty good in the sense of if you have more of those units that send out, the better it's gonna be. And we find like if you have one or two of those per room, you can really do room level positioning very, very well.
That's
And also here, it's important to realize that there are a lot of advances over the last years. So, for example, Bluetooth, in this case, it's using the Bluetooth low energy stack. Lately, its range has been increased, but more importantly, there is a mesh implementation, which means it can hop from one unit to the next. And that means that you can cover entire homes with Bluetooth. That was not possible before.
Yeah, for sure, and that's actually a very interesting way that you explain that, because we've heard of mesh networking. Of course, that's we've had router companies and things like that come on the show. I've not really personally heard much of Bluetooth mesh networking, but makes a lot of sense. And I guess even beyond that, so. And I'm going to try to clarify this. If I'm wrong, please correct me. It sounds like if you have, let's say, two of these Crownstone devices in per room, and you say that if if my phone or if these Bluetooth devices detect that I'm, let's say, Bluetooth devices 1 and 2 detect I'm here, and 3 and 4 do not detect I'm here, that means I'm in the kitchen. If 2 and 3 detect I'm here, then I'm in the living room. So it's just, if you have 2 or 3 of these things per room, and they detect, and you can, let me know if that's, if they detect you through your phone, or if motion sensors or things like that. But if multiple devices, kind of show that I'm here, then I must be in X room.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more detailed than this. So they use really the signal levels from multiple of those devices, of which, and these devices can go through rooms. So it's not just counting or so, it's really using all the measurements of all the visible devices. And it uses the combination of all those signals to find out where it is. And there are two ways in which you can do that. One of them is running all those algorithms on a smartphone, but it's also possible to do that in the network itself. In that case, you can also have wearables like Fitbits or smartwatches or all kind of wristband devices that only have to broadcast Bluetooth signals. And then the network has has all the algorithms on board to do the positioning.
That is very, very cool, and obviously a great idea, because Bluetooth is very, and you mentioned over the past couple of years with the advancements, and one of the advancements, especially at this most recent CES that just happened in January, one of the advancements is, of course, the plummeting cost of these sensors, especially low energy Bluetooth, and just the cost effectiveness of a solution like you're describing. It's really, like, would you say something like this is affordable, or has this reached the point where you would recommend something like Crownstone to someone who's not even just interested? Because if you're interested, maybe you'd be willing to spend a little bit more money, but this is cost effective and useful at the same time, especially over the past couple of years.
Yes, absolutely. So the Bluetooth devices themselves, like every kind of wearable, etc., their prices drop tremendously. But these Bluetooth beacons we have, they are integrated into outlets, which means you can directly use the system to switch lights or dim LEDs or measure power consumption, all kind of these things. It's all in one integrated device. So that means this positioning information can be directly used for these kind of purposes, not only hooked up to other systems, which is also possible. So you can hook it up to your heating system and things like that. But an integrated solution like this is, if you just consider a smart bulb, they might already be, say, I think $40 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of the like $30, $35 is kind of the price level of a Crownstone. And yeah, it's if you compare it to previous systems where you had a smart home and you had to wire your entire home, you would run into thousands and thousands of dollars where the installation cost itself already vastly exceeds the price of the individual modules that you currently can buy and even do it yourself, the installation.
Yeah, and trust me, the current home that I'm in, we have a system called Crestron, and don't get me wrong, great company. They've been on the show, love them. But when you talk about cost effectiveness, Crestron, you are not. It's something that's very prohibitive to people just jumping in. But yours is, and we should talk about the device itself and the installation, or I guess lack thereof. Because I think this thing is, the definition of plug and play. And we can also talk about some of the other features you have baked in, because I'm seeing things like, their child lock, their dimmers, their wake up lights. So let's say someone goes to Crownstone, they purchase one of your units. I believe they come in kits of 2. Walk us through getting the package and starting to use these devices.
Yeah, so what we have are plugs and built-in versions. The plugs are for the European market mainly, for now. The built-in versions are the most interesting ones. Those are little units that you can place behind a outlet or behind a light fixture. They come in a package of 3. And if you want a smart home and you have like 6 rooms, for example, 2 of those packages will really bring you very far. You can unplug the installation procedure is much easier for the plugs, of course, than for the built-in versions, but it's still do it yourself. It's still possible to do it if you are a little bit okay with hanging a light bulb and things like that. You can put it behind any light fixture. What it basically then means is follow the instructions in the app. So you don't need professional installers for that part. It really follows you step by step to install the entire system and to define, for example, okay, I don't want to dim my laundry machine, to say to say something, and only to dim normal lights or LEDs. You can configure basically everything yourself.
Yeah, and obviously not too complicated, but sounds like you very, very recommended that you have a smartphone to do the initial installation and things like that. Although I should ask you, all right, so 2 questions. First one, you mentioned primarily for European market. We knew that coming into the interview, but I'm going to ask you a difficult question. Because I saw the plug and I'm like, this is really cool. But then I saw the interface. I was like, I have nothing that plugs into this because I'm in America. When are you hoping to, maybe bring something out for other markets other than Europe?
Those plugs are just introduction. Like it's those, you can see them as samples basically.
Okay.
So those built-in devices are really the main product that we think is really gonna change the world. It's those plugs. Those are different for every country, and they will never be able to. You can never make really billions and billions of them, but those built-in versions you can. And they are for the international market. So we have a version coming out that's 110 volt and 240 volt compliant. So yeah, it's definitely meant for the North America market.
Sorry. Yeah, sure. No, and I definitely see them here. If anyone out there is watching the video portion, we are of course showing their little devices. It looks like kind of like you said, wire them through the wire them through the back of the outlets, and they'll be able to broadcast your signal. So obviously, I've replaced plenty of outlets in my time. This does not look complicated at all. So very, very cool. All right, so that was the first question, and I had a second question. It was on the tip of my tongue, but I got to say that I don't recall it. So why don't we go ahead and move on to other smart devices? Because let's see, like right now, sitting here in my studio, and I have a smart light bulb that we kind of use to get the lighting right and things like that. Getting sometimes smart light bulbs or smart lamps or maybe even digital assistants, things like that, plugging them into smart outlets or having things, kind of turn off, turn on, it can be a little bit of a hassle. Things that want constant energy to work and be able to use their smart features sometimes don't play nicely with other smart devices that happen to, cut power and things like that. How does, I guess, kind of using other smart devices, primarily light bulbs, work with your system?
Yeah, so if you buy smart light bulbs, on those places you probably don't want to have also smart switches, but you can. And you can still use the power measurement kind of features and other things like that. But it's indeed an important one to realize that if you have a physical switch, that a lot of smart devices don't work in series with a normal switch. So if you physically turn off the switch, then the digital device also turns off, and you won't be able to turn it back on digitally. And we have actually a very smart solution for this, which we internally call switchcraft. And that's working in the following manner. You have a very small adaptation to your light switch. And by this adaptation, you power the device constantly on. However, if you physically flip the switch, what you cause is a small dip on the 110 volt line, and we can recognize this on the Crownstone itself, and we can see this as a kind of a signal that we have to switch or change our state. So you can use switches simultaneously, digitally and physically, which is a really I would say a very interesting process in which you see that us, but probably also other manufacturers, are going to think about, okay, how can we use smart devices together with conventional systems, or how can we actually make it more and more operatable?
Yeah, and of course you're talking about when, let's say something comes on and the load comes onto the network and that little dip. You're right. I mean that's just very, very basic to the physics of electricity and loads. And if you're able to read those, then hey, you want to talk about universal compliance. I think the laws of physics are pretty universal when it comes to electricity. So that's very. You have put so much thought into this that. Trust me, sometimes, we have companies on the show and it's like, what do you do? It's like, oh, we do what others do. We just do it better. I'm like, hey, that's okay. That's a good business model. You have, and like you said, with Switchcraft, you are putting a lot of thought into, I guess, making smart homes, kind of easier to put together. So let's say, ideally, everyone in the world, now, when they build a new house or when they renovate an old house, everyone has a Crownstone built behind the wall of every outlet, and everything is just kind of Crownstone enabled. What do you think that does for, people or the homes or, just entire, and I hate to say it this broadly, but societies, because I'm seeing things here like energy insight where you can see, what... saving energy and things like that. I mean, do you think
Absolutely.
Crownstone has the ability to save people money and on top of that make things more convenient? What happens when this becomes everywhere.
Yeah, so one thing, like there are three things here. One thing is, I think, that people don't realize how big this market is. So indoor GPS, we are like almost 90% of our time at home or under a
actually,
roof.
Anna, I'm going to stop you right there. We have actually commercials we're going to play here in just a second. Would you mind staying over so we can continue our conversation?
Sure, yeah.
All right, so everyone, music playing in the background, and we're going to switch to commercials. So everyone stay tuned. We are, of course, talking to Crownstone, CEO of the company. Everyone, we'll be right back. More Computer America right after this. Everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on. And anyone out there who's missed any part of the conversation so far, again, computeramerica.com or wherever podcasts are heard, search Computer America, should pop right up. And today's interview in its entirety will be put there, of course, right after the show. So everyone, if you are just tuning in, welcome into the program. We are talking with a company called Crownstone. You can find more at crownstone.rocks. And of course, we were talking to Mr. Anna von Rossum. So, and of course, Anna, thank you for continuing on with us. And I'm sorry for interrupting you there, but you were about to get into the 3 different points about when these, when this technology is kind of ubiquitous, what's possible. So, please continue.
Yeah, so I have 3 points on that. And in the sense of people do not realize how big this market is going to be. We are a lot of our time, I think 86% or something like that, we are indoors. So it's going to be a bigger market, like just indoor positioning than GPS. The first satellites of GPS they launched with very little actually. And they thought very little about the market that was involved, and they are like, of course, in the end, it's a super big market, but it's going to be a little bit the same with indoor. People say like, oh, I know what when I am indoors, but they don't realize the huge applications and the huge services that you can build on top of those. And the other aspect is the number of chips that are chipsets that are involved in an application like this. So if you just count the number of smartphones in the world, it's still limited to, the number of people in a household maybe times 1.5 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But the number of just power outlets or light fixtures, those are way beyond the number of smartphones. So if you consider every kind of outlet, of kind of device as needing its own communication, needing its own chip, it's going to be a really huge market. There are going to be like the number of chips going to dwarf the current smartphone manufacturers. And the application aspects of this is regarding energy savings mainly in the smart home market. It's going to be huge. Not so much because of controlling lights, because lights, we are we are basically slowly adapting and removing all the old-fashioned light bulbs to LED.
Yeah.
But the combination with heating and air conditioning, so if you don't do that when nobody is around, or if you only have heating in certain zones of your home, the energy savings are tremendous. But you need, of course, to know when people are normally there. You don't want to have the system directly reacting to your presence, but you want to be able, over the course of time, say like, oh, then I'm normally home, so I cannot preheat, and I'm gonna already cool down, or the other way around in the summer. And to really adjust to someone or a household like this is going to really have a lot of energy savings, especially if we are going to go from fossil fuels to electricity. The energy savings that are required, because the electricity resources are still limited, are going to be very important for our societies.
I think you're absolutely right. The using of resources more efficiently, I think, is just as important as these technological advances. And of course, not to harp on cost too much, but when it becomes as simple as maybe an extra $5 or $10 here, and I'm talking about in the near future, to make something an IoT or smart device, and it's just a couple of dollars, and you're going to save yourself much more than that in the long run. It becomes a matter of why wouldn't you, as opposed to why bother. So
absolutely certain. Sorry.
And please go ahead.
Yeah, certain setup boxes or something like that already uses, like, if you calculate it, 50 watts or 40 watts, and already a single device like that, if you leave the house and you have a thing like that behind it, it's standby power on itself. It will already earn the system back within a year. It's very fast.
So yeah, and just real quick, I mean, the only thing that I'm and I say the only thing. One thing I'm worried about. Let's say you have these devices, and we can also branch this into a talk about security. But let's say you have these devices, and you sell your home, move, or something like that. And obviously, I don't think you're going to go through your house and try to loot your smart devices or these positioning Bluetooth chips out of your walls. And let's say you leave them behind, and you say the next person goes in there and uses them. Talk about security, and let's say you had them, you sell the house, someone else moves in. Can they kind of take them over? Can you reassign them? Can you just talk about, make sure that you as the homeowner are the only one that has access to the information that you're using to give your position in your home?
Yeah, that's indeed important. So you have security on several levels. One of them, of course, Bluetooth itself is a standard. But one thing that we thought also was very important is not to automatically hook it up to the internet. So our system does not include a hub necessarily. You can use a smart device as a hub, but normally the house is offline except for the first configuration. And that means, like, if then there is no attack factor for a digital hacker. Others are indeed like scenarios about moving, or about sad scenarios like a divorce or something like that. You have to come up with strategies where you actually can reassign the physical entities to someone else, or to get rid of your data. I think in this respect, we are going beyond a lot of companies. So the data is always yours.
Mm-hmm.
And you can decide to wipe it or not to put it on the internet, etc., etc. So this is, like a more extreme standpoint than most of the companies are involved are doing. And also related to this is that a lot of our stuff is open source, so not just the app store or not just the apps on the store, but also the firmware on the devices itself. And that means that a lot of people can actually check if what we are doing is actually good. And there is actually the same reasoning as well regarding the market share behind this. One of the most successful infrastructures recently, of course, are the app stores. So the Android store, the iOS store, the Apple store. If you have all kind of ways to have little pieces of software on those phones, or in this case on those little switches, you can actually personalize those in a way that is very mature. You have little containers. It's from a security perspective really nice. And on the other hand, other people can also really put different functionality on it. And that's really, we think, the way to go.
Oh, absolutely. So, of course, just to give a tie-in, every third Thursday of the month here on Computer America, we do a Linux show. And Linux, of course, open source, and we definitely tout the virtues of making more software, hardware out there open source. So I was definitely glad to see it available through your device. Allow people with maybe it's like, this is great, but I want to, like you said, add this functionality to it. You obviously allow them to do that. So that's very, very important for, I guess, the life cycle of a device, because when they are open source, then you now have, let's say, maybe your team might have 10, 15 developers, and let's you open source it. Now you have thousands of developers who will be using your platform. So definitely, so definitely enjoy that. So that being said, and by the way, I kind of bring up the idea of like switching houses because currently it is a pain point. We recently sold our house a couple of years ago, and I'll be honest, just before we left, because we were sprucing up and updating the home, we put in a smart thermostat, which is great. It looked good, blah, blah, blah. I still, to this day, get that family's thermostat reading saying that they used X amount of heating, X amount of cooling, and I delete it immediately. I don't feel the need to log into their smart thermostat and kind of unassign myself. But I just find it interesting that, they never took the time in 2 to 3 years to ever go into their smart device that is, right there at eye level every day. And they've never said, who really has access to this thing? So I think that it's a pain point for a lot of people, because they assume that, because I can do XYZ, they never go in and really check and see, who has access to this. So I don't have their number to tell them to stop it, but I've seen it happen in real life. So that's why I brought that up.
Yeah, it's of course something that is hard to solve easily. Like if you sell your second-hand smartphone, it's also important to remove all your information from it. And I think a lot of people do not really realize what's involved there.
Sorry to step over you there, but I think you're absolutely right. I've also seen stories online about people who have sold their smartphones or their tablets, and they have all their contacts right there. Even so far as I think we had a security correspondent actually rent a car, and the Bluetooth device that had previously connected to the rental, a car that no one owns except for let's say Enterprise, they uploaded all their contacts unknowingly to the smart car. So he got in and he was fiddling with the settings and found the previous renter's full contact list. It's the easier you make things, the more I think people are going to just kind of assume and take things for granted and not think them through. But at the same time, that's neither here nor there. Like I said, you have put a lot of thought into what Crownstone does. So talk about you mentioned that these that the plugs are available now. They're kind of like test kits. You mentioned that Crownstone, the positioning behind the socket things, are they available now? Where are they available? When are you hoping to maybe do some kind of fuller release? Tell us about your plans for the product.
Yeah, so the built-in versions we already are selling for a few years in Europe. And we will have them available for the US in a few months, I think 2 months, something like that. And they will be available via shop.crownstone.rocks, and we will also put them through Amazon and different channels like we see fit. Preferably with installation included, although it's not necessary.
Right. Yeah, and hey, I'll definitely keep a bookmark on your website. I'm sure that you can sign up for a mailing list. But I have of course a studio here that I think something like this would be very interesting to kind of play with and try.
Cool.
So I'm probably gonna get myself one. This is because of course, being a tech show, I want this studio to be as techy and intuitive as possible. So I'm really looking forward to you kind of coming out to the U.S. market. Anna, I'll let you have kind of the last word. If people want to find out more, or by the way, if we missed anything that we haven't talked about, if people want to find out more, where can they go? And any other points?
I think one of the very interesting recent phenomena in the States, especially, is the smart speakers, like Alexa and Google.
True.
And everything like these. They're opening up a lot of opportunities regarding extending your smart home. So if you are still thinking about, okay, is this something for me? First start with something like this, and then see, okay, what can I do subsequently? Those things are really cheap, and I think they're really like a kind of a gateway or a hub towards making your home smarter.
Very, very true. And hey, there really isn't that much, I guess, investment because right now I think you, according to your shop here, about 89 euros gets you two of the plugs, and of course you can buy the 3 kit. For less than $100, for less than 100 euros, you start to turn your home into a smart house. And like I said, when you talk about some of these other systems that are integrated from the ground up, that's a steal. That's very, very affordable. So Anna, I want to thank you so much for coming on to the program. This was interesting. I knew it would be, and thank you so much for coming on and talking about Crownstone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you that I was allowed to go into a little bit more of the technical details.
No, our pleasure. And like I said, I've heard a lot of things about Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and and mesh networking and things like that. This is the first time I've heard of something with mesh Bluetooth and positioning. So very interesting. And thank you so much again.
Super. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. And we'll definitely talk to you later. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone, and there you go. So obviously, if you want to find out more, computeramerica.com, we have it in the show notes. Everyone, thank you so much for for checking that out, and crownstone.rocks. You can check that out right there. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to computer and technology news. So last 10 minutes of the show, here we go. And here we go. So, computer technology news brought to you by Computer America. And I think for our first story that we're going to do today, and let's see. So, lots of great ones, only time for a couple. Why don't we go ahead and talk about, I kind of want to bring up Disney. What's better? So, obviously, Disney has been working in the wings to bring us a bunch of different options for streaming. And, obviously they work with, they're working with Hulu. They own a vast majority of Hulu thanks to their recent acquisition of Fox. Disney itself is, of course, huge when it comes to its own movies and collections dating back decades and decades and decades for, movies, television, TV, what have you. Or movies, television, and music, what have you. Now, this article coming to us from The Verge saying that Disney is ending its Vault program, giving Disney Plus a huge boost in the streaming wars. Although it's not really a streaming war, it's just, kind of which streaming service caters more to the content that you enjoy. So here we go. Disney Plus, which is the upcoming streaming service that Disney is going to be offering, it will carry Disney's entire catalog of animated films, ending Disney's long-standing Vault program. CEO Bob Iger told shareholders today that Disney Plus, at some point fairly soon after launch, will carry films that traditionally have been kept in a vault and brought out basically every few years. And that's true. Every couple of years you would see a new Lion King. It's, digitally remastered, or maybe you would see something like, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it's, it's touched up and what have you. Whatever it may be, they did not sell their entire catalog at one point. They rotated them to, just kind of drum up some interest. Now, of course, that's a major policy change for the company, which has deliberately created artificial shortages of its films via limited re-releases. For example, a movie like 101 Dalmatians would have been available to purchase during its initial home release run before being placed in the vault. Disney initiated the practice as a way to control its own market and drive up demand whenever it did release a new edition of an old classic. But the policy has led to frustrated customers who often have to pay a high premium for used Blu-rays or DVDs because, artificial scarcity. Now, Disney currently has 34 movies in and out of the vault, including, of course, things such as Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Baby 2, Little Mermaid 2. Although 34 movies may not seem like enough to sway uncertain subscribers, for $10 a month, it's a pretty big deal for Disney fans who don't already own the complete library. And so with that being said, Disney is betting hard on exclusivity, saying that the company decided to take $150 million hit to remove its films from Netflix. And I have to say, exclusivity is going to be a major selling point for Disney. Between what they have available through Fox, what they have available through Marvel, what they have available through, of course, Disney itself, a lot of these are, real attention getters. So with that being said, AT&T is gearing up to launch its own streaming service through Warner Media, relying heavily on HBO's content backlog, which could also be a major selling point. But that content may not be exclusive to Warner Media. It could still be licensed by other services, such as Amazon Video. We are fast approaching a situation where it's just getting too diverse. And just as my professional opinion, as someone who follows this on a regular basis, it seems like between Disney Plus, Time Warner, whatever AT&T is going to be, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, HBO, Stars, Cinemax, all these different, I think the Hallmark Channel has one. There's so many different ones that every content provider wants to be able to make money off of its own content. People aren't going to sign up for this much. People are not going to even be aware of all the different services that are soon to be competing. And on top of that, if people aren't aware of it, or they feel like this isn't this particular service isn't a good deal, then it's not like the cable industry where, AMC can, kind of languish in the background and just pull royalties, even though people mostly just sign up to watch, let's say, NBC's program or CNBC's program. I'm thinking a few of these are going to fail. A few of these streaming services are going to fail. It's just a matter of which ones, and at this point, Disney could probably cut it because of their name brand recognition and just the amount of money that they can throw around. But it's not looking good for a lot of other services. So on top of that, let's go ahead and finish up this article saying that JP Morgan is betting that Disney will eventually have 160 million subscribers worldwide, according to CNBC, which is more than Netflix's current 139 million. And there you have it. I think Netflix had has kind of the advantage here because it doesn't have all the overhead, it doesn't have all the minutia surrounding it like Disney does. And I'm not even sure if Disney, with 160 million subscribers, if that is even enough to make it profitable enough for Disney to keep doing it, and with Disney Plus. But there you have it, coming here soon. We're going to see. So with that being said, why don't we go ahead and move on to the next story? And we have a couple more, time for just one more story. Why don't we go ahead and talk about a lot of great stories? Amazon, talking about different movies and what have you. Amazon, if you don't know, they purchased the rights to produce their own content with a very special IP. And obviously Game of Thrones season 8 is right around the corner, and the amount of intrigue and just the fan base for Game of Thrones has just been so wildly successful that Amazon is hoping that they can recreate the magic with another similar IP. And similar because it's fantasy, it's similar settings, although obviously Game of Thrones is HBO and it's going to be much grittier. Here, Amazon teases when its Lord of the Rings series will take place. And the article says, "Welcome to the Second Age." This is by Nathan Ingram, Engadget, and Amazon has offered precious little information about its forthcoming Lord of the Rings series, but some Twitter and Instagram teases have started last month and are finally bearing fruit. Previous posts showed the map of Middle-earth slowly being filled in with more information, and today's reveal gives a good idea of where the show will focus, including the island of Numenor, and was added to the map, something you won't usually find in most Middle-earth maps. That's because the island was destroyed at the end of the Second Age, thousands of years before the events of Lord of the Rings. So, there you go. That's why. Yeah. So it looks like we're, again, heading towards the Second Age. It's very nice, very encouraging to see that Amazon, after they spent like $1.6 billion or something like that to be able to produce a Lord of the Rings television series, that they aren't going to rehash the original trilogy. They are not going to rehash the Twin Towers. They're not going to, Return of the King. They're not going to do the original 3. No, this is a completely new Lord of the Rings IP, which, hey, J.R.R. Tolkien has done an amazing job building a world, and I think a lot of fans of the series will enjoy being able to see a different part of this world. Another notable tidbit from today's reveal is that it seems likely that Amazon has rights to Tolkien works beyond Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Historically, the rights to all the rest of his works had been held closely by the Tolkien estate and were not available for filmmakers. Jackson's 2 Middle-earth trilogies could only pull from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and their appendices. If Amazon series is going to focus on the Second Age, there's a good chance that they have rights to Tolkien's works published after his death. So obviously this has been kind of expanded upon. So while that might be a disappointment for some, although, like I said, not for me. Gandalf, Aragorn, that's all great, but at the same time, although I think Gandalf is some kind of omnipotent wizard, so he should probably still be in there. But everyone else, it's okay. So we may learn about his great-great-great-great-great-grandparents and how they shaped the Middle-earth that we're more familiar with. Sadly, though, we're still lacking in concrete info until Amazon shows us. But safe to say that for $1.3 billion, Amazon is really hoping that this is going to be, something that people really follow. Think Game of Thrones, but like that kind of scale and that kind of television series, but with an IP that everyone knows. So with that being said, we're just about out of time, everyone. I actually talked a little bit long. So everyone, we are just about done here for Computer America. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, hey, be sure to catch us tomorrow, where tomorrow on the program, if everything goes as planned, we should have a very special segment where we'll be talking about none other than a cat box. What kind of cat box? A smart cat box. Imagine a litter box that you only have to change once every couple of weeks, and you can actually have your cat send you text message alerts saying that, hey, I just went to the bathroom. If you're wondering why or how or what, then don't worry. Tune in tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Folks, until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and looking forward to it. So everyone, have a great one. Bye-bye.
Hello.